Hello and welcome to the Mindset of the Millionaire Leader. I'm Edith Espinola, the productivity coach at KW Bay Area Estates. And today my special guest for an unfiltered conversation is Andy Sweat. Andy is gonna answer questions and be as open and transparent as he possibly can. And I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So,
Is
Andy,
it?
can I
Is
just,
it? Is this gonna be fun?
this is going to be really fun.
All
So,
right.
can I ask you just a few questions to get
Yeah,
started? Do
yeah.
you
Go
mind?
for it.
Okay. Can you tell me how long you've been in the business
Yep.
and what your production level was before you came to to Keller Williams, and then how long you've been with Williams, and where is your production level right now?
Yeah. So I've been doing this 4 or 5 years now. I started with the Law and Pinnell. I would say, with the Law and Pinnell, it was a lot of sort of figuring things out, a lot of training and whatnot. When I finally committed to like full time going at it, I think, that was like probably the second half of the year of 2016 maybe. And I did, I think, like 6 or 7 million. And
Hmm.
then the 2017, in like May, I moved from Alampinell over to KW. And then that year around 40, and then 2018 was around 50, and then last year was about 64.
That's awesome. And so, what do you attribute to your rise in production?
I don't know. Honestly, I think, I have this conversation often with like Mark and stuff like that, and it's something that I keep going back and forth. A lot of this business, I think, in terms of sales and whatnot, it's a talent based business, and sometimes you either have it or sometimes you don't, or sometimes you find yourself and you find who you are and who you're going to be in this business, and you run with it, and sometimes it works. Most of the time, it does not. I mean, I
Hmm.
think the entry level to get into this business is so low, but to become a top selling sort of producer, I think it's tiny, right? And I think
Hmm.
some of that has to do with a lot of hustle and hard work. I mean, trust me, I put in a lot of effort and time in terms of knowing the market, and everything like that. But then also just who I am personality wise, I think is a big reason why I've been successful, kind of at a shorter period of time, I would say.
So, personality wise, what kind of personality do you have?
Yeah.
And how has that contributed, right?
Yeah. So when I was first starting this business, I did the Buffini thing with the Law and Pinnell, writing notes, doing all that stuff. And I was trying to be, like a really nice cookie baker sort of realtor, right?
Hmm.
And I realized fast that that's not who I was, right? Like I was writing notes to people in my database and everything like that, and they're just like, "Who the fuck is this guy? Why are you writing me notes? This is
Yeah,
not
what do
you,
you
right?"
want?
Yeah. So once I sort of said, "Screw that," and like, you know what, you've got to embrace who I am as a person, which is messy, which is all over the place, which is not polished at all, but still driven by the market and understanding how the market works. That's when I think people started to connect with who I am.
Hmm.
Plus, I started to like myself a little bit more, right?
Did
Like I
you?
got, it's hard to do this business to begin with. You're meeting with strangers, you're trying to put on a show, you're doing all this stuff. If I was still trying to be someone I was not, one, I would have failed already, but then two, I hate doing what I'm doing right, so.
Hmm. You mean you hate doing what you're doing now, or when you finally made the
If I
shift?
was trying to fight the personality that who I am at my core.
Oh, got it. Okay. So you did a lot of personal growth. So this is really cool, right? Now,
Well,
the
it's not so much personal growth as it is just being true to yourself, I think, at the end of the day.
hmm
Yeah.
and so well, tell me a little bit more into that, okay?
What do
Like
you mean?
when did you realize like you weren't being yourself? because that's a
when
huge
I
awareness.
was not making sales.
Uh-huh. Right.
No, when I was getting feedback from people that like it didn't come off as authentic, or it just was apparent that the personality took a 180 from probably what people liked in me to begin with, right?
Hmm.
So once I started seeing that, and it not, me being overly nice or me being a certain way, I wasn't getting the correct feedback on that. That's when I said, you know what, if you're going to be successful, you just got to be who you are at the end of the day. Some people are going to dig it. A lot of people may not dig it, but at the end of the day, at least you can live with yourself. And I think you have a better chance of success if you are at least going down that path of who you are. Right.
Yeah, that's so true. Like I coach agents to be totally authentic in their business, because if you're being authentic, then you're also having fun, right? Because you're just being who you are, and you're attracting the people who are similar and who like you, right?
Yeah,
So
and I
tell
think
me.
some of that grows too a little bit with, as you get sales and everything like that, your confidence grows. You start being really comfortable talking to people and everything. So I think in time, uh, you become a little bit better at being comfortable with who you are. At first, you're sort of adapting, because there's a fear, you're scared a little bit and all that stuff. Um, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So tell me, when you realized who you were, right? What are some of the traits that make Andy Sweat Andy Sweat?
Uh, I don't know. Let's see. Well, first and foremost, I am definitely a hardworking type of person. I'm not married. I don't have kids, so I can really devote a lot of time to this, right?
Hmm.
And I do, and I make a lot of sacrifices. I see a lot of agents. They have some success. They buy cars. I drive a Saturn. They go on lavish vacations. I don't go on vacations because my long-term goals are not the now. I mean, my goals are not the short term. They're long term, right? I view myself as sort of like a startup company, right? So anything I do, I'm pumping back into the business. I'm taking some sacrifices here and there. Sure, I do some things to enjoy myself, but some of those big lavish purchases and different things like that, I tend to stay away from.
Hmm.
What was the question?
Yeah. I don't remember because I'm already thinking about the next one, right?
Yeah, and I
I
apologize.
think,
I'm gonna ramble. I'll be all over the place. My sentences are gonna be fragmented, but that's who I am. I think to be truthful, that a lot of people kind of respond to that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's really good, right? And so I'm going to try to follow you. Sound good?
sure. Good luck.
Yeah. So I know. So I know that you had talked about, like, you have the goals, right? And that
Yeah.
your big goals are what are driving you. Would you be willing to share with us what those goals are?
I don't want to be so. Let me first say I love Chuck. Chuck not only is a fantastic realtor, you can learn a lot from him. He's the first guy I ever met in this business. Uh, but I don't want to. I don't know if I want to be 62. I don't know how old Chuck is. Sorry if he's on this or whatever. 62, 65, still doing what I'm doing. I really, I want to see the finish line here and do the right things so I can be 50 or something and be out of this thing, or take the foot off the pedal, and I've got other investments and different things like that, right? So I think my long-term goal is, not to die in my grave trying to show houses at 75 or something.
So you want to retire early then. And are you thinking that when you do step out of the main agent role, that you have a team, a business going? Like, are you planning to go to a level 7?
What's a level
You know
seven?
what that is?
Do they
Okay.
teach level 7 at KW or something? I'm
Yeah,
not
in the
aware.
millionaire
So
real estate agent.
I've always talked, thought about forming a team and different things like that. I'm such a control freak that I find it hard. I also kind of find it hard to find agents that I think are really of quality too to form a team. Like, the one thing is, like, in terms of success or a successful agent, you could teach people how to generate leads. You could teach all that stuff, but if I was to form a team, I'd rather have somebody who doesn't know shit about real estate, doesn't know how to do that, but is a social butterfly, can talk to people, is charismatic, is confident. That is probably the hardest thing, if not impossible, to teach in this business, right? Uh,
Right.
because a lot of it is talent. You know, you look at like Von Canel or Simpson or Kossel, those guys have the gift of gab, right? And that's
Hmm.
a thing that, I mean, look at Myrick. I mean, I think Myrick is the perfect blend of it, you know, where he's, you know, just easy, cool, easy to talk to, and all that type of stuff. You know, that stuff is I mean, to be honest, is kind of unteachable. And
Right.
you know, and that can separate a lot of people in this business, and that's the hard truth of it, you know. And so, like, if I was going to tell somebody to work on anything, it's how you communicate with people, right? Like, really look at it. Like, you may think you're connecting with somebody, but maybe you're really not. Like, how are you coming off with these people? Also, you have to be able to adapt on the fly, you know, because
Hmm.
not everybody's got the same personalities or any of that stuff, right? So I mean, take an improv class, do some creative stuff where you can really learn, you know, how to tell a story. Like, I'm not a good storyteller by any means. I'm a good observational type of guy. I
Hmm.
can really go and pinpoint stuff on that. But learn how to tell a story or something. Have some go-to stories or something. But man, the gift of gab and being able to communicate with people effectively, you know, whether it's being charming, but also confident and intelligent what you're doing. That's the hardest part about this business.
Yeah, absolutely. And, all of the guys that you had named, Mark, Greg, Chuck, and Jim, that's part of the reason why they're all such successful top producing agents, right?
Yeah, and like even look at like a Tom Yor who could be brash and sloppy, but boy, can that guy talk, right? I mean, holy cow! And he's also a hard worker, super knowledgeable. So there's definitely it's not like you have everybody's the same,
Right,
but at the core, those guys know how to effectively communicate with a vast array of different personalities,
right, right. I
and that's tough
agree.
to do.
It really is. And I love the fact that you had mentioned, like taking an improv class, right? How
Yeah,
fun would that be? And so, it's really all about really understanding and knowing who you are as a person,
right.
right?
Yeah,
Because then if you know who you are, then you could go ahead and deal with the things about yourself that you like or you don't like,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
And then once you realize that you love yourself, then it's easy to talk to other people. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I
That's
100%
awesome.
agree. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I have a question for you
Okay.
from Judith. When did you first realize you started being successful at this? At
Uh,
what point of your career?
when the bank account went up, I guess. No, I think you know, as you start realizing when you start seeing a pipeline of business sort of stack up, right? It's not like you're one offs or two offs. You start sort of getting that rhythm where you're working on your current sort of thing, but then there's also, you know, stuff on the horizon as well, right? So once I started seeing that, and I would say end of 2016, early 2017 was when I really started to see a shift in terms of what I was doing was paying off. So, is there a concrete thing that says yes, you're successful? I think the only thing is money. I don't know. I mean that's a pretty clear indicator to me that you're doing something right. You know,
Mhm.
um, yeah,
So, I know that you're a social media guy.
yeah.
Your Facebook posts look great on your the Sweat Brothers, and and you seem to be pretty consistent. And the photos, I believe, are taken by your brother, right?
He takes most of those, especially Instagram. That's one of his main and probably only job. Yes.
Mhm. That's wonderful. So now, how important has social media been to your business?
It's been huge. You know, I mean, we have a pretty specific idea of how we want to project our look. You know, we everything we do, we kind of look at it from how would I react from it as a consumer, right? So when I see posts, top 10 tips how to clean your house or something like that. I honestly think the consumer doesn't give a shit about that stuff, right? So we really, for us, we're feeding, just high quality sort of photos. Obviously we're posting track records so people could see production. If we post anything outside of that, it's usually hyper local events or whatnot in specific areas that we really like to work in, like Rose Garden or Willow Glen. But we really want it to maintain some sort of glossy appeal to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been able to grow our sort of reach organically. You see people like, I don't know. I look at like the Boyanga's like Instagram page. They got 48,000 followers, but like 50 likes, right? And then you look at who's following, and it's all bots. It's just bots, right? So
Right.
we're really all about quality, organic engagement, right? So we've been able to leverage Instagram. We've gotten leads off of Facebook. 100% we get leads off of, not just running ads, but I'm pretty proactive at reaching out to people, friending them, connecting with them on Messenger, this and that, and stuff like that. So social media has been huge for us. I think it also helps with sort of the look of kind of
Mm-hmm.
what we want to project. We're projecting a lifestyle, I think, at the end of the day. That's more important to us than feeding you with I think useless garbage.
Well, I do see that you have that image and it is a lifestyle. And it actually, to me, and I don't know if it's just my age or whatever, but it looks very fresh and hip, right? It's got a
Hey,
little sexiness to it. So,
thanks,
I
Edith.
think you're
Thanks, Edith.
welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So, Marella has a question.
Okay.
What's your preferred platform?
What does that mean? What do you mean?
Like, which one of the social media platforms do you prefer?
Facebook generates the business. Instagram is just sort of a secondary feature of it, But
Mhm.
Facebook is, because honestly, Instagram, sure, I think older generations are definitely hopping on it. But in terms of actual items and really kind of being able to connect with people, it's Facebook 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We do
that's
have
great.
we have a Twitter, but I think that it's only just to maintain a Twitter account really at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's good. So Facebook. So, do you do then like specific Facebook ads?
Um, yeah, I have some sort of templates that I tinker with here and there. Obviously, we do boosted posts and stuff like that, but that more just generates sort of followers and people that you can reach out to as well. But I do Facebook ads. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I liked Facebook a lot better when you could really target people though.
Yeah.
Now there's definitely some restrictions in how you do it. Right. But, we're still seeing results off it and everything.
That's so good. And Kent Weinstein, did you see what he said? Can you
Yeah. Yeah.
forward
Yeah.
me the
Yeah.
top 10
I'll
tips?
send you that. Yeah. Start with the Swiffer and then, work your way to,
So, keeping in, in alignment with getting leads and generating business, what is your main pillar for getting business?
it's definitely referrals now. I'd say probably still 60% ish are referrals, and it may not be like, hey, here's the number. It's a guy knows a guy knows. There's some connection there, right? And so you can kind of leverage off of that. But social media is a big one. I do Zillow. Zillow is not for everyone. I have to warn people on that. Zillow's definitely changed in terms of that approach. It's definitely a pay to play sort of business. But again, Zillow is 100% not for everyone. You have to have the right systems in place, but also you better have you got to connect with somebody, whether it's on the phone or via text or email. I'm not talking about speed to connect with them, but like connecting with a complete stranger in a very short amount of time, right?
Hmm.
So I've had a lot of success with Zillow, so I still do it. It's more strategic on my end in terms of where I do it at. So yeah, I just caution people jumping into Zillow and spending a bunch of money, but you have to really know how to talk to people and have everything in place.
That's great. So, when you call so I love that you're building your business today even more by referrals, right? Because
Yeah.
having a referral, that is such a warm lead that it's easy for you to go ahead and get the deal, right?
Right.
So, What do you do with your database then? Your sphere of influence database. What kind of things do you do for them to keep in touch, to stay connected? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not, I'm not a big, huge phone guy. I'm not a big, like I don't um, hound people. I really respect people's sort of privacy because, at the like, so when I'm talking to realtors, I'm one way, but when I'm talking with a client or potential client or something, there's a switch that I can really turn on, right? Like, so, like, I don't really want to talk to all you folks anyways, right? But like when it comes to a potential business sort of thing, there is a switch that I can turn on, right? When it comes to past clients and different things like that, it's really more of like a market update once a month via email. I still send out a newsletter. This is probably about, I'd say my core database is probably like 500-ish people. So like an email, what's going on in their specific neighborhood and market, a newsletter, the occasional text and email, and again, I may lose out on referrals and business for not picking up the phone and calling. But again, it goes back to like, I got to live with myself at the end of the day. And it's just not my style of business, right? Like, for instance, I'll never door knock. I think
Right.
I know it's effective for a lot of great people. Like Jordan Mott crushes it at door knocking and everything like that. But for me personally, I can't stand somebody knocking at my door trying to sell me right now. I mean, like, so like I look at it again, and again, I lose business from that. But again, I have to live with myself at the end of the day too. So I'm just not a door knocker unless things completely dry up and I have to go to it. But
Right. So when you said that, there's a switch that you can turn on when you
yeah,
speak with, your clients and stuff, is that the charismatic Andy? What is
yeah,
that? Is that you just
it's
bring out the
more
charisma, the
it's
professionalism? What
oddly
is it?
it's oddly more comfortable and confident and more relaxed than I am in like this setting. It's so
Hmm.
odd, you know. Because I feel like it's a show a little bit. I'm driving the show. A lot of people, they're looking for me for guidance. I'm the captain. I'm the leader. So I can move a conversation this way. I can move a conversation that way. I can lead them this way. Right. So, that's how I kind of look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you just step into the leader role and say, okay, here we go. Right.
What,
Total I
yeah,
love it.
but there's no other option. Right.
Right, exactly. Brad he says, do you think that switch in personality is something you learned over time or something you were born with?
See, again, it's I there's part of me that says you're sort of born with it. At
Mm,
least I think you can improve on it and become a better speaker and a better person in terms of that switch. But you really got to dig deep and really be honest with yourself in terms of your personality. You know,
mhm.
I'd be happy. Anybody who wanted is like if you wanted an honest opinion of what I think you're doing with who you are and whatnot, whether I'm right or wrong, I'll let you know. But I think a lot of it has to do with I think there is some stuff that you're born with, but I do think you can improve and force yourself into a position where you are a better speaker. You can find some success in this business. Whether you reach levels like Greg Simpson or whatnot, I don't know. You know, but there's plenty of people who have been terrible speakers. I mean, there's so many stories like that. Terrible speakers, afraid of speaking or whatever, and they overcome it, and they're like the greatest speakers of all time, right?
Right,
So
right.
there's plenty of people like that. I think it's more about instead of being comfortable with why you're saying it and whatnot, it's like, how can I be more charming? Or how can I, you got to find ways where you can really connect with people at their core,
Right.
and be able to pivot based on their personalities as well.
That's awesome. So you're definitely going according to the personality. At Mega Camp one year, Gary Keller had interviewed an agent on stage, and he was the most boring, monotone personality that
Yeah.
he'd interviewed. And at the end of the interview, Gary Keller cracked up and said, if this guy can be successful,
Yeah.
anyone can be successful, right? So it's like, just make sure that you're, I think, authentically true to who you are and learn how to communicate that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that guy probably is probably more on the rare side. I would say in our market, being able to talk to people is probably a lot more important. I don't know where that guy was working, but it could be podunk nowhere. We're selling 200 units to, you know, I sell your house tomorrow sort of thing, or whatever,
Yeah.
for sale by owner crap or whatever. Here, our units are less, right? The competition is, so it's fierce. There's so many of us dumb fucks out there, right? And there's only so much of the pie as well.
Right.
So I honestly think the monotone agent in this market, either you've been in business a very long time and that's why you're successful, but like if you're entering the business and you're a monotone sort of flat person, Godspeed. I don't think you have a chance.
Yeah, I think that you could be successful at that if your client is very similar in style, right?
Yeah,
Then they would feel
but there's so
comfortable.
many there's a lot of engineers and stuff who are like that, but really they don't. I don't think they want that sort of related. They want somebody to sort of push them in directions, even push them out of their comfort zone a little bit,
Mhm.
with some ease. You have to sort of play that by ear in terms of how you do it. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. There are some questions
Okay.
that if we go back just a little bit, Arjun would you say social media has been a dominant source for you? And what would your business be like without it?
Yeah, I think social media has been a pretty dominant source. I think it's been a way to continually stay in front of the people we know, our database, and also grow. I mean, it's amazing to see how many people that we work with be like, this guy, or this guy, or whatever like that. So yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big focal point of what I do. I'm born and raised here. I went to Bellarmine. I have the connections and people, right? That said, it's when we were first starting out, you think like, oh, your mom's best friend and your even your uncle or something, they're going to use you. They all know 50 other realtors, right? So it's really difficult to convince them to use you on that, right? So once we really started to also gain some success, that's when the referrals and people of the trust that we knew started to trickle in. But it did take some more stranger sales, I would say, in terms of non-referral based type of stuff for that stuff to happen for me.
Mhm.
So yeah. So anyways, yeah, social media is a big part of this. Without it, I think I'd be fine. I've got other pillars now, but I think it does help in terms of increasing visibility and increasing sort of database referrals as well.
That's awesome. And speaking of, other pillars, Kristen has a question. When you were new to the business, did you do a lot of open houses as a source of new clients? If
Yeah.
so, did you have a strategy on how to start those conversations?
Yeah, so not really. Like at first it was kind of, I definitely think newer agents and people maybe struggling to drum up business definitely do open houses, but be smart with it. When me and Matt got into it, we were so enamored with like the luxury appeal of it, the luxury lifestyle. We were going to do this and that, right? So we were taking like open houses from like Chuck Nunnally, that the house has been on the market for 120 days, three people coming through the door. You think of this, these are going to be it. Uh, if I had a different strategy and starting out, it'd just be those lower price points, man. Knock out the units. I'm all about units, man. I mean, that's the key to it. To get to like the Simpson level or something like that, it takes a special breed and a special connection and some time in the marketplace. It's all about units. So I would, that $700,000 condo first week on the market. If I was, if even in my current spot, that'd be the open house I take over, say, Greg's, 3 months on the market sort of listing. But again, also there might not be that many opportunities, so it's not a bad idea just to take one. I think, yeah. So, anyways, open houses was not a big part of what we did early on. I think we had a bad approach with it to begin with, but that
Hmm.
would be my advice if you are to go that route. Be smart about which ones you pick and everything like that.
Yeah, that's great. And then right now, what do you think of the idea of the virtual open houses?
I don't know. How do you guys? I don't even know how to do it. What do you do? Like, are agents standing in the vacant house, or are they just kind of like standing online and people? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
engaged in it.
Yeah. So Connor sent out
Yeah.
an email with a link to, I believe it's a video or at
Okay.
least some information to educate us on how to do it. But really, basically, a virtual open house is, you have the virtual tour or your own video that you've created, and then
Yeah.
you're there to answer questions for
Yeah. Yeah.
people, not on the property,
I
but
think I
yeah,
think it's a great idea. I mean, is it going to sell the house? I don't know. I think, for me, I think a lot of people. I know I saw the numbers like 25% of buyers making offers. I think NAR sent that out on properties they haven't seen or something like that. I think a lot of, especially markets like a Willow Glen or something, or even Los Gatos, I think a lot of people got to step inside and sort of get a feel for it, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, you can have the 3D tours, you can have all the content you want, but it's a very touchy sort of feely thing, I think, at the end of the day. So, we'll see. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I love that. So Greg said, know your stats. Simpson average days on market 11. So, okay, now, Morella, what's the percentage of referrals from past clients would you say drives your business?
Well, I would say my sales the past couple of years, I'd say like 60% are referral based, and so
Mhm.
everything else is sort of 40. Social
Awesome.
media, Zillow, all that stuff.
Awesome. Nikki wants to know two questions. How do you manage your calendar? Are you reactionary to what comes up in the day, or are you specific as to what you are doing
Yeah,
each day?
yeah.
And if the latter, what is your focal point you work on each day?
I put things in the calendar, but for me, I prefer to be more on the fly. I'm not very strict in terms of time blocking or anything like that. I think I have a decent amount all up here, and that I know what to do and whatnot. I'm sort of driven. I'm in a pattern of things and know what to do, but in terms of specific time blocking or anything like that, no. For me, it's more exciting to be kind of fluid and lucid with it all. So trust me, it's better to time block for most people. Don't get me wrong. It's just how I have to do it for me to be comfortable and liking kind of how I do, to be in this business and everything like that. But what's the second question?
Okay. What does he do with his sphere? Regular calls to stay in touch, or do you only do newsletters?
Nope. So newsletters, obviously, that I do a physical mailer and then an email market update. But I do texts and emails, and usually more email form. Again, like I said, I may lose some referrals or some touch because I don't pick up the phone and call. But I do think there's a decent amount of people that don't want to be hounded by us realtors too.
Right.
As much as we think that they like us that much, I really don't think that they do that much, right? So,
Right.
so a simple text or an email is such a soft way of sort of approaching it, and keeping in touch that I've seen it pay off. So
Mhm.
that's my approach with it. Yeah,
That's great. And because they are past clients or they're in your sphere, so they know you,
yeah,
that resonates with them who you are.
sure.
Heidi asks, what automated systems do you use?
Automated systems. I mean, like a CRM type stuff, or like I mean, I haven't really. So I've tinkered with like Command and whatnot, but I haven't really switched over. I use Boomtown quite a bit. It can be costly in terms of that CRM. Automated systems. Obviously whatever follows up with them, and I have some sort of automatic contact stuff like that. But I'm very hands on with that. I do not put people on drips. For all my pipeline of buyers, I send personal emails and texts because I'm looking at the MLS pretty constantly, right? And I think it comes off a little bit more personable if it's coming from my direct thing versus all the drip feeds that they're getting already from a bunch of other realtors. Um, so a Boomtown CRM I use. Altos I definitely use for the market update.
Market. Mhm.
Um, but that's about it, I think.
Yeah, well, Boomtown's pretty huge. So, how many hours do you spend lead generating a day? And I'm using the term lead generating with, like, with the Boomtown and the
Yeah,
Facebook and the emails.
all day, isn't it? All day.
Well, some people don't. So that's what I wanted to
I mean,
know.
your
And
number one. So I would say, obviously, I think one of the core things is like I keep going back to, you got to learn how to communicate to people, how to connect with people, right? Second thing is your number one job is to generate prospect and generate leads. I mean, you ain't nothing without that. That said, you could generate leads and prospect all day, but if you don't know how to talk to people or anything like that, it's nothing. Just give them
Right.
to me. I'll give you a referral.
Okay, so Faith is asking,
Right.
how can we get the trust for that first transaction for the new agent or returning to the business agent? So how do you gain trust to have a new transaction when it's your very first transaction? You don't have a history or experience to fall back on.
I think it comes down to how you're projecting yourself about that. Are you telling them that this is your first transaction? Are you tripping over your feet in terms of your conversations with them? Are you not knowing your shit about the contract or whatever? Do you not know neighborhoods? Do you not know areas? I think it comes down to that. I think at the end of the day, especially with my like first four deals, I don't think it ever came up. I don't know. Sure, maybe they've done research and possibly, but it never felt like it was a topic of conversation or a hurdle, right? I think the way it felt was I think they thought that I knew what I was doing, right?
Hmm.
So it comes down to that. So I'd really look into how are you portraying yourself, to this client, are you coming off as meek and not knowing your stuff or whatnot, if they ask, is this your first transaction? I think that's a bad sign, but you could be honest with that and sort of pivot and just say how much you know about this neighborhood or this and that and whatnot. But again, I think it shouldn't. I don't think it should be a topic of conversation if you're portraying yourself the right way to the client.
I love it. So it sounds like basically really like have confidence
Yeah,
and know the market and know
market.
how to do the transaction.
Yeah,
And so basically just like educate yourself on the technical parts of being a realtor, right?
totally that, and then also be personable and charming and all that, and intertwine it all. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a dance.
it
It's not
is.
just I'm the stat guy or I'm this guy. It's a balance of both. You got to be able to sort of weave it all together.
Now, did you ever have scripts that you started with and then finally incorporated into your own?
Not really. I mean, I had some framework of idea of what to talk, and even now, it's more of like I have an idea of what conversations and things to say that works, and I kind of keep going to them. But again, it's sort of evolving as a case by case basis. Um, um, so I'm not a big script guy. No, I got
Hmm.
to go kind of off the cusp and stuff. But I do in the back of my head. I've been doing enough deals and I've been working with enough people. I do have fallback things somewhere in there that are constantly going, right?
Right, right.
Uh, but I do not have like a hardcore scripts or anything like that.
Right. That's really good, right? Because it's like really scripts are just things that you say over and over and over again because there, certain things in the certain situations come up, right?
Right. Right.
So that's great. So you have your own set of scripts, so to speak. Arjun asked a good question. What's your morning routine and what's your evening routine?
It depends, man. I'm the worst. Like my morning routine. So when we were not shelter in place, I was doing like Orange Theory, and I was, sort of, I'd either do it in the morning or I do it late afternoon. Um, um, but work wise, it's about like responding to emails. It's about prospecting, sending out emails to potential sort of clients that I have in the pipeline, right? So like constant follow up type of stuff. Um, I'm on the MLS constantly to see what's going on with it, looking up stats, but looking at the inventory and everything like that. Again, like I was saying, Edith, I don't, I'm not a big structured time block, to Nikki's question, so my routine, it's not a hardcore set routine.
Hmm.
And that's kind of why I like this business too, because it allows me to sort of do what I want. If I want
Hmm.
to skip out on work today or whatever and go have a bender, I can go do that. But so I don't have a strict routine per se. Uh, but again, it all comes down to reaching out to past clients, following up with people that you're working with, and then prospecting leads.
Hmm.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And I think the ability for you to do all of this without having a routine, right? Without having like a strict routine. I think that that just shows that you know who you are, what your strengths are, how
Right.
you work, and so you just do it authentically your way. And obviously, it seems to work very well for you.
Right.
Bernard asked, "How many deals is 70 million?"
Well, see, so 70 million for Greg Simpson's like 10 deals. For me, I'm a units guy, right? So like last year, I think I did 46 units last year, and price points. I think it was like 4 million all the way down to 350. I mean and I don't and trust me, I say this truthfully. I treat every deal the same. That
Mhm.
350K condo pays for something, and also if you treat that buyer or that seller the same way, that's a referral for probably somebody down the road or something like that, right? So to me, it's a units game. I think you have to play that. If you're only focused on the upper end, especially if you're just starting out in this business, unless you have a big database of people connected in those markets, or you're coming from tech or something like that, I think it's going to be a struggle. I think you
Mhm.
have to be looking at it from a units perspective.
Wow. So Andy, 46. You did that all by yourself?
All by myself.
Oh my God. So which ones were like what do you have to say after coming out of 46 transaction being done all by yourself? There's got to be some really key bits of knowledge, some really awesome tips. I mean, that is like boom, 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 right?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty.
46.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was an ongoing sort of thing, and to juggle it all. I don't have an assistant or anything like that either. But no, what I learned from it is that you want to be Simpson. You don't want to sell 46 units. You want to sell 15. So but I don't. I mean, nothing changes whether I sell 20 units or 46 units. To me, it's still the same sort of thing at the end of the day. Personally, I like a 2019 market. I try to be as 50-50 as possible with listings and buyer clients.
Oh, good.
I
Next question.
love working with buyer clients. So not married, don't have kids. I have the time to it, right? With buyer clients, all it is your time and your effort, and that's it, right? Listings cost money and everything like that. That said, you do need to list to sort of last in this business. But so I try to be 50-50. Now, when the market is balanced, those buyer clients for me, because I always have a pipeline of buyers, it's so much easier to convert, right? Where like the beginning of this year when it was red hot, and I still have a lot of qualified buyers, but qualified buyers that think logically too. They'll play the game up to some point, but
Hmm.
at some point it doesn't make sense, right? And there's some agents that are really good at pushing people to that extreme level we saw in 2018 in terms of their price points. We started to see it early in 2020, but the beginning of this year, a lot of those buyer deals weren't going together. Last year they were going together, right? So
Hmm.
it's also just a matter of flow in the market for me in terms of whether I can convert those buyer deals or not. So
That's awesome. So, right now in this market of the moment,
yeah,
what does your business look like? How many
well,
listings,
yeah,
escrows,
yeah. So
closings?
I've got 3 listings on the market. I had one in Sunnyvale. We took it off. The guy was 75, owner occupied. We were getting calls to show it, but we were just like, I mean, it's stupid. People
Hmm.
want to see it. They're not going to make offers on this thing. So I had 4 listings on at one point. I closed 2 deals this week. I'll close 2 deals next week. I've got 5 other things in contract. So I was ramping up quite a
Hmm.
bit. Like I had a built up of energy from January and February that was not converting people, but they were. It was a ball moving in the right direction, right? That said, I'd say I probably had like 15 or 16 really hot buyers ready to go, right? 70% of them are wait and see. I still
Hmm.
have probably, I'd say 3 or 4 actively looking, and debating putting offers in, but there is a chunk of it that's sort of wait and see mode. Uh,
Hmm.
but I do think they jump back in once the shelter's lifted. Things are a little bit more normal after that. It's not like I think we're going to do a bunch of open houses right away or anything like that, right? But I think as time goes and people start seeing it's okay to go outside and the market is still doing what it's doing, the demand and everything is there. I'm seeing
Hmm.
all signs pointing that the demand is there. So for me, I've been busier probably than even the first couple months of this year, but I was already leading that way anyway, so I'm not totally surprised. And then some of my buyer clients have gotten, I think, good deals on properties,
Mhm.
um, so yeah.
That's great. And then are you doing anything for lead generation for business for when we come out of the
Totally.
of
Yeah,
uh-huh.
I'm having a lot of these like Zoom meetings, listing appointments, and all that stuff. So I'm trying to up the listing game, especially in specific areas and everything like that. And so I'm having these type of conversations in prep for when this all breaks out. I'll have a chunk of listings to go on the market and stuff like that. Yep.
So the people that you're talking to and doing listing
Yeah.
presentations for, like, were they already in your pipeline before we came into
Some,
this
some not.
market?
Some
No,
and
some,
some.
some not.
Yeah.
And how did you find the ones that are not?
Um, Sort of through some strategic Facebook ads, but also through some softer email plays,
Mhm.
sympathetic approaches to the times and everything like that. Like, hey, I know this is crazy. If you need anything, let me know. If you want to know what's going on with the market now and where it's kind of heading, that's cool too, or something like that. Right. So, and the rate of getting a response on that is always going to be low. So don't expect, oh man, you're going to get 100 responses, right? But for every 100 people you touch, if you could get one person, that's a success, right?
Mhm.
So it's been some sort of soft approach and not a on the nose approach about the whole COVID-19 stuff, right?
Mhm.
I think we've been bombarded with that over and over by realtors and commercials that we're seeing and all that stuff that, I think there's a decent amount of people that just kind of want to be like, sure, I kind of want to still freaking know what's going on with the real estate. I don't want to think about COVID-19 or anything like that. Take my mind off it. Let's talk, sort of thing.
Mhm.
Right. So I think I'm trying to sort of pivot into that approach than more than anything else. Yeah.
Awesome. So, do you get every listing presentation or buyer consultation that
Yeah.
you do?
I do have a good, yeah. Yeah. Because I would say my rate's pretty high. It's
Mhm.
and it's not and I it's and what sucks is I'm not probably going on a ton of listing appointments, but my rate is really high because I developed either connection with this stranger even before we get in there,
Mhm.
or it's a referral of some sort and we got something, right. But I would say, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm not nearly going on the amount of listing appointments that many of these agents go on, right?
Mhm.
But when I do go on them, they usually turn into a listing. Yes.
That's awesome. So, on the rare occasion
Yeah.
that a client decides not to work with you,
Yeah. I
what
TP.
process?
I TP their house.
You're the one who cleared out Costco.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
right.
kidding.
This is being recorded, Edith. You're going to get me in trouble with them.
So,
What's the process? I'm pissed off. One,
mhm,
um, but then again, it's sort of something I probably already know why I wouldn't get it. Whether it was a price point that was too high, or it's something where I was definitely not on my game that day. Right. A lot of times when I don't get listing or something, it's like whether it was how I talked or my approach or something like that, or I was too sweaty or something like that. Something was off about me that day more so than anything else, right?
mhm,
If I'm on my game and I'm going in confident and I'm talking like I talk or whatever, I should be able to get the listing.
mhm.
Unless it's in an area that I usually don't work, or it's in a price point that's like I don't have the track record to sort of handle. But usually at the end of the day, I can pinpoint it that it comes down to me that I was probably off that day.
Mhm. So you get pissed off, you take
Yep.
ownership of it. Now, how long does it normally bother you?
Uh, it still bothers me. It like you'll forget about it after a month, and then you'll see it go on the market. Oh my god, that starts it all up over again, right?
Right, right.
Uh,
Okay.
it's I know some people, you got to move to the next deal or whatever. It festers with me, but I think I also feed off of that a little bit too. It sort of
Mhm.
drives you to be better, be on your game, find another deal, make them regret for not for not choosing you, right?
Mhm.
But don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't care. You lose a listing, that for me, and maybe that, again, I'm not going on enough listings or something like that, right? But for me, it sits with me,
That's
for a
good.
while.
Thank you for being honest about
Yeah,
that. I love it. So, I wanted to see.
we
So,
got a bunch of questions, right?
yeah, and then there's a bunch of really nice things that people are saying to you. So I'll give you a copy of the chat.
Okay.
So Nikki's saying that,
Yeah.
you work with a lot of buyers. So how do you show all these properties at the same time? How do you balance it all? And do you coach them to find their house online and then you just write the offer? Like how do you do that?
So, I think, a lot of people do buyer consultations or make sure that they're pre-approved or anything like that. I think I think that's backwards. And I learned kind of this from Tom York too. I think building a connection with someone, whether they're approved or not, or even know what they're doing, is so much more important. Figure all that stuff sort of out there. So I think for me, like the number one thing I like to do, especially with a new client, instead of so much having long conversations over the phone or in person at an office, let's go look at some properties, right? Let's get into the space. Let me showcase my value, pointing out things, talking about the market, being charismatic, showing off my personality, connecting with you in the space that we might be buying, right?
Right.
And most likely you're not buying that house, right? So to me, again, Nikki's got a family and all that stuff, right? I don't have that. So my time, I am definitely more flexible in that regard. So I make a lot of sacrifices of my time. So how do I balance it all? I sacrifice a lot.
hmm And then, so if you're going to sacrifice,
Yeah.
there's something that you get as a reward for it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And tell me, what's your reward?
Hopefully a deal and some money. And I'm making my way towards early retirement, right? Like, isn't that?
Right, because what I wanted to, like,
Yeah,
focus and show everybody was your long-term goal,
right.
right? Your big why you're doing real estate is because you want to retire early and you want to be financially healthy, right? You want to have investment properties so you don't need to work. I mean, if you wanted to, you could, but you want to be in a position where you don't need to, right?
Yeah.
So when you're on when you're retired, Andy,
Yeah.
what is it you want to do with your time?
I don't know. I always think about what's that bad Santa with Billy Bob looking like he made it successfully on the beach, opening up his own bar, but really he's just behind the counter of another person's bar. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I just know it doesn't. It's about traveling and just relaxing. I'm a pretty simple guy at the end of the day. Like for me, going out to a restaurant or a sporting event. I mean, that's all I need, right? Like I'm not a big purchase guy or big travel guy so much now, but obviously as retirement or something like that, it looks something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, just being able to spend time, quality time, enjoying yourself with the people that you care about.
Yep. Good food, good people, good booze. That's it.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, we're coming close to the end.
Okay.
Is there anything in particular that you would like to say? And actually, let me put this on a gallery view here. And if anybody wants to say anything,
I have time if anybody wants to. After this, we could stay on or pop on another chat or something.
yeah. So, does anybody have anything they want to ask or say?
I want to say thank you so much, Andy. I gotta tell you, you're so inspirational. I really appreciate and value your knowledge and your complete honesty. It was very wow. It was just an eye opener. I've been in real estate for over 28 years, and I've had a lot of personal struggles, but I'm getting back into it. And you're me a long time ago, and it's really up front and center for me. And I really value what you said because it's just, God, I feel like it's an aha moment for me in my life right now. So I just want to say thank you.
Well,
I mean, it brought me to tears, really.
Oh,
I appreciate that.
that's so sweet, Heidi. Thank
Heidi,
you for
thank you. I
saying that.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Andy, thank you
Arjun.
It's Arjun here. Hey, thank you so much, brother. Quick question. How do you, because my mind is that of a whack job. So how do you stay so organized? What are the systems you have?
I mean, besides like CRM type stuff, but I tell you, I mean, I'm still like that traditional sort of, make a list, have a notepad and stuff like that sort of guy. I have a task list that I kind of keep track of and everything like that. But a lot of it's already sort of built in. Like I've gotten into a rhythm of how I do things in terms of follow up and prospecting and stuff like that. That it really isn't so much staying organized, or maybe I'm more OCD about it, as it is something that I just sort of kind of can do,
Got it.
That
No,
answer,
I appreciate it.
I didn't answer him at all.
Thanks, man.
Good luck,
Reza,
buddy. Get organized.
Reza, you want to say something?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for sharing your experience. You said that you had 15, 16 potential buyers, that 70% of them are just prepared to hold for the shelter in place is lifted. Are you trying to like convince them that this is the right time to buy, or no?
Nope. One of my biggest lines I tell people is I'm a no pressure realtor. I understand that this is a process. I want to gain their trust, right? Like, and I truly mean that. The market here is stupid. The prices here are stupid. We get paid way too much money, all that type of stuff. I want them to really be convinced that like I'm in it with you guys. I have a client who love me and are great. They're both teachers and stuff, and they, the means are tight. We've been working on this thing for a year and a half, right? And I still show them properties constantly as if I just acquired this lead, right? So I'm not a pressure type of guy, and I think people respond to that, right? I do lay out. There are some people where, I do mention, I do think this might be a good deal or whatnot, time to buy or whatnot. And some people get it. But if I sense any hesitation that, no, we want to wait or anything, I easily say, let's just wait, because I think pressuring people to do something, it comes off too strong. You're a salesman and all that type of stuff, right?
But in general, your opinion, is it a good time here right now? If they want to ask your opinion, that is a good time to buy, what do you say?
I think it just depends. I personally do think in certain areas, there's some deals to be had, right? Other areas, I think it's like nothing's changed, right? But I have been able to see some deals on my side where I think if this didn't happen, they would have sold for higher prices, right? So I concretely will tell them, I do think this is a decent opportunity. That said, is the inventory even there to support it though, right? Like, we're not just going to run off and go buy anything, right? The problem is the lack of quality products coming on the market, and especially areas like a Willow Glen or stuff like that. I'm not seeing a lot of things come on that would make some of those buyers that I had in those areas go, yeah, let's jump in at it, right? And even the ones that are on, I think a lot of people are adjusting too much in their price and just sort of saying, hey, it's a shelter in place. It's the reason why things aren't selling. Let's just stay at our price and see what happens, right? So, but yeah, I do think it's a good time to buy. I really do, actually, in certain areas.
Right. Thank you.
That's so awesome. Thanks, Reza. So Jay has a question. How about the commission question?
What?
How do you handle when clients ask for money back, sellers or the buyer?
Yeah, so I'm pretty good at always. I'm 2.5% usually solid at that listing side and buyer side, but I have been and gave back, and sometimes, trust me, I fight it. I fight it really hard at first, but there's also a certain demographic of people that it's either you play ball, right, or no, right? And one instance, I had something in West San Jose. It was a $2 million deal. They wanted 10 grand back or something. It's a $50K commission check, right? And it's either, do you give them 10K back and make 40 grand, or do you make zero, right? And I think, I know that there's definitely hardcore loyalists to, your worth and all that sort of stuff. I don't see it like that. I don't think this is a principle matter. I think it's an economic matter to sort of move the thing forward. I'm not known as a discount agent or anything like that, you know, because you could see most of the deals are the normal commission, right? But at times, to keep the ball rolling, to get another sale I can market, to do well for this client, I think sometimes bending is not a bad idea, to be honest.
That's great. Thank you for that. So, Susanna asked, how and when do you ask for referrals?
Sometimes right after the close. So I'm bad at asking for reviews. You know, any reviews you see of me online, it's mostly the client is offered to do it. Mainly because I feel like if I ask for, and maybe I'm totally wrong with this, but I feel like if I ask for a review, I've used up my favor, right? And really the favor I want to use up is asking for a referral, right? So, and maybe that's wrong. Maybe you can ask for both. I don't know. Maybe I should really try it more often, I guess. But so it's either kind of let the dust settle, you know, or right away after the close kind of sort of thing. Or it's, you know, a couple months afterwards, check in, hey, you know, sort of that, but still come off as authentic. You know, I'm not checking in just, yeah, sure, I want a referral, but check in authentically, you know, whether it's email or call or text or whatever it is, really see what's going on. You may never know. Maybe they freaking hate you, you know, they hate the house and all that stuff, right? So really check in first, but in the back of your mind, see if you can sort of pivot it in a way to ask for a referral. Yeah.
Awesome. So we've come to the end of this show, and I wanted to know, do you have any parting words that you'd like to share with everybody that's online right now?
What are you people doing on this call? You should be selling real estate right now.
Good question.
Question. What's up, Ron?
Morello,
I don't know.
Yeah, she can ask.
It's okay. I'll stay on and ask you later. It's fine.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right. Well, so Andy, thank you so much for being on the Mindset of the Millionaire Leader. You really gave us a lot of inspiration. It was definitely an unfiltered conversation, and I had so much fun. I learned so much from you. Everybody, thank you so much for participating. Go out there, you know, do your lead generation, make business, and have a beautiful day.
Take an improv class.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, guys.
For sure.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you so much.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.